Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another sizzling edition of the Inworld Review. We're all very excited here. We're broadcasting, as always, live from Chilbur in Second Life, and brought to you in association with AView TV. And yes, it's been all the fun of the fair this week. Well, not so much a fair, but a developers conference and various other things. We will get to the bits as they come up. Basically, the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Developers Group held their first, they have regular meetups, which you've probably seen on this channel, but they held their first major conference this year, and took place on Monday and Tuesday, and we'll be discussing some of the highlights and issues brought up by that in a short while. In terms of, shall we say, the mainstream activity, okay, I've just been told black screen in studio, but in fact I'm seeing the stream and the camera fine, so I think it's probably a live stream glitch on
just checking, thank you.
On the monitors. Okay. Two real world, as it were, stories that sort of relate to the metaverse. One concerns a streaming company. They're not exactly like live stream here, but they are. They're called Twitch. You can get them on your iPads, your Androids, and everything else like that, as well as the web. And they have been very popular for people playing computer games, particularly gamers, who go live and sort of show their game live on the channel. And there's a whole community of gamers, really, at Twitch TV. And, you know, when you go to Twitch TV, you can look at their channel roster, and, you know, it's all identifiable by game. So, you know, if you're into World of Warcraft, you look that up, and then it gives you the menu of broadcasts from World of Warcraft and things. Sadly, very little Second Life there, but of course Second Life is not a game, so what? But the interesting thing is Google have bought them out to become a subsidiary of YouTube during the week. And in terms of virtual television and stuff, this could actually be quite a major sort of event. Obviously, with Google behind them, they're probably going to get a lot more traction. And if depending on how closely they get associated with the YouTube brand, even more traction. So we'll have to wait and see. I might go online and do something at Twitch, a one-off, to see how it behaves for me at some point. But anyway, good news for the virtual broadcasting. News. I mean, so whether it's good or bad at this point, we don't know. So that's Twitch, now owned by Google and being branded with YouTube. And in the ever-ending world of 3D interfaces and virtual reality and stuff, the big news here is that Samsung have now joined the fray. We have Oculus VR, which has been on everybody's lips since Facebook bought it. We've got Sony's Project Morpheus, which has been gaining a bit of traction, basically probably on the back of Oculus. And now Samsung have actually joined the act too, and they are making their own VR headset and racing to try and get it out before all the others. We'll have to see how that goes, but I think hardcore addicts are going to have a tough time shortly, because, you know, if you want to see everything, you're going to have 3 different headsets and put them on different occasions, depending on which grid of worlds is being hosted by the enough about that. Anyway, those of you who watched the program last week will know that we were sadly without Tara. Well, today we are not sadly without Tara. She is back and with us, so I'm going to hand over to her for the Second Life and her take on the news this week before we move on. Tara.
Well, thank you, Mel. And of course, I'm anything but ready today. It's just one of these, you know, some days things kind of fall together, and some days they just sort of fall apart.
Yeah.
Today was a fall apart sort of day.
I'll tell you what, Tara, because people are hearing the voices anyway. I'm just going to introduce the other guests that we've got here before you continue, just so people will be able to identify them if their voices come in. We have, of course, got Petlove Petshop, who's our wonderful camera person, and you've been hearing her voice already in the background.
Hello.
Maria Kovalov is here, so she'll be bringing her news after Tara. And we have a very special guest today, I hasten to add. She's a really old friend of us and the channel back in the days when we did RL broadcasting. And she was the first British musician ever in Second Life, but she's done so much more over the years too. And that's Slim Warrior. So welcome, Slimmy.
Thank you very much, and it's so lovely to sit with you all here again. It's absolutely brilliant.
And we're so looking forward to catching up on things
Yes.
a little bit later in the show. Anyway, now Tara's had time to think of what her news is. Back to you,
no, I have a very short list. But first off, just for those of you who might or might not have noticed a little visual thing today, Petlove and I decided that it was time to gang up on Mal and his propensity for wearing the same outfit show after show. Now, to give Mal credit, he did change his clothes for one show and wore something different, and he swore he sent this particular the outfit he's back in to the laundry in the meantime. Well, we don't know about the virtual laundry and how effective it is, but we decided that if we attempted to match his attire, that perhaps that might encourage him to make further efforts to explore his inventory and find other things to wear. We couldn't.
I don't know about this. Maybe I think this uniform should be compulsory.
Yes. you guys look so good in that. You look way better in that than he does.
Thank you. Oh.
well, see, the difference is that what we acquired, was a freebie, although I suspect his was too, but is of considerably more recent vintage. Plus, it's the female it's the closest we could find. It's the female version, and then there are lots of ways you can slice and dice it as far as what accoutrements and extras and what have you put on. So
it comes in other colors too, but we were certainly not going to not wear purple.
Yeah, we were going to not deviate from the uniform palette, as it were. Anyhow, just in case you hadn't noticed this little item, and of course this serves as a wonderful segue into one of the items I have from this week, which actually was a news item last week, but since I wasn't here last week, I can talk about it this week, and that is the release of new starter avatars by Linden Lab. And there have been a couple of interesting notes made about the new avatars. First off, because they're mesh, you can't alter their shape. And I whizzed through the, quote, normal, unquote, female avatars, and the incidence of the slightly anorectic is rather alarmingly high. So that's my particular comment, besides the fact that most of them are dark-haired. Well, probably on a worldwide basis, that's fair. But the other thing that has been noted in the blogosphere is that you can't go out and go shopping for them and expect to find clothes that will fit them, because they're mesh avatars and they are not built to a standard size or to accommodate the range of standard sizes that don't abide by the new mesh stuff. So anyway, so there's the comments. The comment has been made that newbies who really want to get into things are going to have to go to the default avatar in order to actually be able to do stuff with it. So there's that. And I was going to say one more thing. Oh, and the other thing that is a showstopper, literally, is the default avatars, the new mesh ones. Their lips won't move, so they're no good for for shows like this.
I was trying to figure out why they would do that. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
I think,
but it's okay.
Yeah, so it's what they did. So there you have it.
The VWPE thing the other week, of course, Ebbe turned up. Ebbe, I should say, turned up. In the new default avatar, which only he had at that time. And of course, we couldn't get his lips moving there either. So it was a bit of an oversight, I thought.
Yeah.
I think it's mechanical problems with the what a mesh is compared with the attachment points on a regular avatar.
Yeah, I suspect it has something, there may be some kind of rigging that can be done with mesh avatars that will accommodate the lip flap, but anyway.
La Paisian is in the channel chat here, and he's making a point of saying he wouldn't actually date a mesh avatar. So there you go. So there you go, girls.
We're safe.
He's my icon of common sense, that lab, yes, I'll tell you.
Yes. Let's see. I have a small Eat Your Vegetables section. If you didn't see, there was an extended post in the Linden Lab Technology section on the subject of the extended outage this week, which I missed completely, but I was probably doing RL stuff at the time.
I love the title of that post, saying explaining the unpleasantness.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a very odd choice of words, but there you go.
Yeah. Well, I was really glad to see that, because it's the sort of thing that doesn't always, in fact, usually doesn't even get into the, into their mainstream. And, they're really doing a lot more as far as posting stuff, which is in keeping with Ebe's comments about opening doors to communication from Linden's to us peons out here in the trenches. But perhaps the quick translation for those who glazed over after line 2 of that posting is that in the world of big complex computer interfaces, there's something that's known as a single point of failure. And what that is basically it's a weak link. It tends to be a spot that everything has to interact with or go through in order for something to work. And if that fails, if the hardware fails, if there's a software failure that involves it directly, then the whole ship sinks. And from that post, what we can learn is that the lab has been working on eliminating several single points of failure. In other words, there have been multiple single points of failure, if you want to get all the words lined up, and that the outage this week, in fact, was one of those. And they always take longer than you want to fix. Because they tend to bring everything to a halt. So well worth giving at least a read, and I think, as I say, points to the lab for some good communication on what they're doing that is under the hood. It's not visible, it's not fun, it's not sexy, but it's got to happen. And if it doesn't, then things don't work and everybody complains even louder. So give that a read if you haven't. And let's see.
Every chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Basically.
Weakest link.
And they appear to have had several weak links. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. And obviously over several years they've been working to try to eliminate them, but they're not done yet. And this week's outage was one of those links. SL11B applications closed on Tuesday, and I understand that notifications are starting to go out, but they've told everybody who's applied to please be patient. They have, it looked to me from what I saw in their blog post, about twice as many applications for exhibitors as there are slots. So not everybody's going to get one this year, but hey, that hopefully means that what does get in will be even better than ever.
Oops, we lost sound.
Lost her again.
I have not had an opportunity to actually kind of wade back through much of the posting and stuff, but I did notice one thing, and that is this particular conference seems to have been dominated by a bunch of young white guys. And I'd appreciate anybody who has input on disabusing me of that impression. So, and that's all I have, and I'm going to toss it back to Mal.
Okay, well, great. We will, I think, talk in a bit more depth later on about the conference earlier in the week. There are a few interesting points to be raised there. Ironically, it was actually advertised by Linden Labs under their LEA site, which is art really, but unfortunately they implied that the event was being broadcast into Second Life, where there was an event, but in reality actually all that happened was they broadcasted pieces with Philip Rosedale and Ebba Linden. So I missed the beginning because I was forced to exit Second Life and actually go to the web, but I've since replayed bits of this and the others to talk about later. I think time to move over to Maria then for headlines. We'll leave, as I say, talking about that a bit later, and sort of first of all we'll just sort of cover all the rest of the stuff. Now I have my links open as usual, but since most of them probably connect with you anyway, I think I'll let you fire away with the news mostly,
right.
Especially the Avacon thing that has come up yet again. No, it's not Avacon. What am I talking about? AviWorlds.
AviWorlds.
I'll get me words right.
All right.
One day.
Let me deal with that right up front. So every month I collect stats from the grids, and I noticed that one grid, every time I refreshed the page, it had a different number of logged in users, a significantly different number. So I figured I'd go Inworld and check to see what was going on. The grid is small; it's only 30 regions, so it's easy to check it on the map. You know what's there, and there weren't all those dozens of people on the grid. There were just a handful of people. I met two of them. They were grid employees. There was nobody else on there, and the grid was run by the same company that was running Alpha Worlds. And I pulled up the Alpha Worlds page just to double check if it was what I remembered it to be. And the Alpha Worlds page still continues to show monthly unique users that are up in the thousands, even though the grid's been dead for years. So, and I tracked it back through the past couple of years, and it looks like they have an automatic number generator, just adding a certain number of unique monthly users every month to Alphatown, and adding a certain number of registered users every month to Alphatown on the website, even though the grid itself is dead. So there's no connection back to the grid. And the same company was doing this new grid, Virtual World City. So so I went in World and I asked, there's supposed to be hundreds of people on this grid. Do they have events? What are they doing? And so there was no answer to any of this. There was a plan for an event. That's about it. The grid itself was totally under construction. It was a beta grid. So I emailed the owner. I've interviewed him before on other projects. And I asked him, so what's going on? It looks like you have random numbers there for your grid stats. And he said, oh, yes, our active user number doesn't work, so we use a random number generator. So he came out and he said this, and I just got so mad. So I care about I know nobody else cares about the stats except for me, but I really care about the stats. And so many grids massage their stats. They have alts, they have they have regions that are empty. All this stuff, right? But to just go and make up the stats without even bothering to massage them, that really, really bugs me. Because there are, hold a real event, get people in there for real. Then that really adds to the community. If you post fake stats and people visit your grid thinking there's going to be people there, and there's nobody there, they're going to think that, OpenSim is like that. That, it's all lies, right? So I feel really strongly about this. And obviously the owner of the grid itself doesn't, and he's posted several extremely vehement comments to the fact that these stats don't matter and that, his customers don't look at these things and, all that stuff. So anyway, so that was the mood I was in. And this mood is the explanation, but not an excuse for what happened next. So again, I was totally in the wrong. I apologize. There's no excuse, but this is what happened. So after going through all this, another grid I was checking, AviWorlds, suddenly gained 1,000 regions. and seem to be hypergrid enabled. Now, this grid is officially not on a hypergrid and does not allow self-hosted regions. It's a closed commercial grid. And in fact, the grid owner has been extremely adamant recently about how this protects content and, so on and so forth. So when the hypergrid address came up, I was like, okay, let me teleport in and see. And I teleported in, and I could do it. The hypergrid worked. And there was another guy standing there saying, have you noticed that there's all these regions on the grid you can't get to? And yeah, the grid had 1,024 or something, 1,012 new regions. All of them had the same name with a number after it, and none of them were up. So they were on the map, but you couldn't access them, which for a closed commercial grid is extremely weird because, I mean, you can see how they might have empty regions, but a closed commercial grid, I mean, they're all up and running all the time. So I emailed the owner about this. I didn't get an answer, but the regions disappeared immediately off the map. So I was like, aha, okay, that's really annoying. And so I started thinking about, what about the other stats? I didn't see anybody online when I was there. I don't see any announcements of events. There's no forum. There's no calendar. I looked at grids of similar size and activity levels, and they all have really busy forums and really busy calendars, lots and lots of events happening, lots of people interacting and posting things. So and that's the article I wrote. Well, it
this is... So there's one crucial point here, and that is, if this guy said, or the first guy said, stats don't matter, then why are they going to these lengths to artificially grade stats? I mean, it doesn't equate, does it?
Because I have a theory about that. But so here's where I messed up on the AviWorlds thing. The owner of AviWorlds did email me back. His note went into the spam filter. It had never gone into the spam filter before, but for something that's this kind of inflammatory, I really should have double-checked. Because you don't want to jump the gun on something like this without getting some kind of an answer, right? Instead of just a no comment. So, and the answer was this, that people are allowed to connect their own regions now. A guy connected a bunch of regions. They weren't up all the time. That is a perfectly reasonable answer. No story there. Happens all the time on open grids. And I would have just totally not mentioned AviWorlds at all if I had gotten that answer. But more than that, their hosting company, ZetaMax, emailed me and said, we've run the grid for them, and yes, they are that busy. Yes, they do have all these events. Yes, they do have all these users. So I had that email. I had the confirmation from the hosting company. Clearly, I was totally 100% wrong on this, and I said that, and I apologized, and I apologize again if you guys are listening. This is my fault, and I am sorry about this. So I totally cut that story in half. I still kept the Virtual World City stuff up there because he did tell me I'm making up these stats. So I have that email from him saying, yeah, we don't, we're still in beta and we're making up the stats. So, which also by itself upsets a lot of people. They don't think I should be writing negative stories at all about OpenSim because, only the good stuff. But no.
No.
I believe that
it's a hard task, actually, because I know when I Twitter stuff, for example, especially where Second Life's concerned, but, I'm trying to promote the metaverse, so I do deliberately choose optimistic stuff, good news stuff, unless it's something really major that's going to impact everybody. I do try and avoid the bad news side of it. But it's a tight line we tread here, and really, also, whether we're doing our job or... And
also, I think that if you don't point out this stuff once in a while, it escalates, it grows, and you do have to address it. And the other problem is that if you don't address it, people think it's that way everywhere. that this is normal to whatever this bad thing is, it's normal. So, for example, look, like maybe 3-4 years ago, I really started covering content protections. And at that time, not everyone, there were a significant population of people on OpenSim saying, hey, we paid for it or we copied it. We can do anything we want with it. And had all these explanations why, you shouldn't have to pay for content. And you shouldn't have license terms. And, that this is all this capitalist flunkies, trying to lock down content. And my point isn't that, all content should be expensive, blah, blah, blah. But that the people who create the content should decide. That it's up to the creators. And so I have been going after every grid owner to get them to post their content protection policies, to get them to post their terms of service, to get them to post their takedown notices, and to identify the license terms. Whenever I visit a store, if I don't see the license terms in it, I email the store owner or the grid owner or somebody and say, what are your license terms? If you're clear and simple, then people understand what they can and can't do. And that takes away the whole, it's full of copybotters thing. Because, no, it's not. There are some copybotters. There's probably a lot more copybotters in Second Life because there's more stuff to copybot in Second Life. I mean, if you're going to be stealing stuff, you go to a nice high-end mall in Second Life. You wouldn't go to some, freebie store with 10-year-old out-of-date content in OpenSim, right? So, and you can't stop the copybotters. No grid, no matter how closed it is, can do that. So for me, this was a major campaign. And again, this was a thing of, this makes OpenSim look bad. No, the people who copy content illegally and distribute it make OpenSim look bad. By not writing about it, it creates the perception that it's like that everywhere, that we endorse it and that it's okay with us. We don't endorse it. It's not okay with us. We want to be transparent. We want to be legal. We want to be in compliance. We want to be a good place to do business, to do education, to do creativity, to do whatever it is you guys want to do. That OpenSim is a safe, supportive, a trustworthy place to do it. So I really, really care about this. This is like a big beef for me. And when somebody violates that, it really bugs me. So again, I apologize to Everworlds. I was totally wrong. And
yeah, well, it happens, but it's nice that we got to sort it out.
Right. Yeah. So that was the big scandal of the week. Let's see what else. I did a roundup of the hardware, and I was really surprised by how many headsets there now are.
Yes.
It's not just the Oculus and Project Morpheus, and the Oculus for the PCs, Project Morpheus for Sony PlayStations. There's the AntVR, which is a Chinese-made alternative to the Oculus, which is compatible with the Oculus and works on PCs. There's something called a Totem for true player gear, which has cameras on the front to let you see what's going on. And they're going to have a crowdfunding campaign this summer. The Avigant Glyph already had its Kickstarter, and it's already available for pre-order. And it has a weird display that projects the image onto your eyes instead of using like a cell phone screen. But it has a narrower field of view, just 45 degrees. So it's better for watching like movies, in a 3D cinema.
Maria, just before, if I interrupt briefly, somebody in the chat is asking for a link for Aviworlds.
Aviworlds, I believe it's aviworlds.com.
Okay, I'll type that in.
Aviworlds.com. Yes, it is. Aviworlds with an S. AVIWORLDS.
Okay, it's in there. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So they're a hard partying grid with a lot of Brazilian users, which is why I'm not getting any English language results for announcements and stuff. Okay. So let's see. There's the Cast AR, which also has a weird projection thing going on. There's things that slide the cell phone slides into, like the Sulan Cortex, the Duravis Dive, the Vraze, and a new one called the Vrismo, which is it looks really weird, and doesn't have a price set, and all kinds of price points from like $50 to hundreds of dollars. So it's really amazing what's out there. Samsung has a device coming out, as you mentioned, and there's something called Game Face. I'll be talking to this company this week, and it's self-contained. So it's an Android-based computer that's actually inside the device. So you don't need to plug it into a PC. You don't need to plug it into. You don't need to plug your cell phone into it. It's its own thing, and they say there's 60 games already written for it, and its graphics is 2.5K, which is quite a bit more than the Oculus, which I believe is 1080. So it's like almost twice as good as graphics as the Oculus or the Morpheus Rift. So that looks like a cool thing to watch out for. It's going to be expensive, though, because it's got that onboard computer. So very exciting. What all this means is that all these companies are competing. They're racing to get the products out first. So all the time frames are getting shrunk, getting compressed here. Because it's a race on, people are throwing more money at it, which is a good thing. And it means that it's attracting big players, not just Sony and Samsung. Microsoft is rumored to be working on something. So all that is good. It means that more game developers are going to be looking at this because it's, all these different price points, all these different devices. One of these devices is bound to make it big. So let's start developing the games to be ready for it when it comes out. So I'm very optimistic about all these things. I think it's a really great development, and the devices can learn from each other. As one guy comes up with improvements, the rest reverse engineer it, make it better, build on it. So I think that it's going to get us to the virtual reality future.
And we've been covering the odd thing where Hollywood is taking an interest. They want to make 360 movies, and without going into the practicality of that, it has gone viral. The idea of over and beyond immersive worlds. It's been considered for storytelling and all sorts of other applications.
Right. I haven't even started doing the roundups of the 3D cameras that are out there. But yes, you can walk around a 3D landscape that's a real one, and you can just film it and walk around it. I think it's going to be great for virtual tourism, demos of homes and houses. Storytelling is going to be it's a brand new medium. It's you combine the stuff you got with the video games with the stuff you get from the 3D footage, and it's going to come. I really do think it's a brand new medium, and we're going to see some really interesting things come out of it that we cannot imagine looking ahead right now.
I'm suddenly thinking, we'll come over to Slimmy in a while, but the 3D cameras and things, you could actually start filming. They do with multi-cameras already in angles on DVDs, but you could almost start filming a music performance, for example, in 360. And edit it so people can actually be in the concert. It's amazing all the things that are possible here.
And speaking of the Oculus, Second Life released their public viewer of the Oculus Rift on the 22nd. So it was like, was it earlier in the week? So I don't know if we mentioned it at last week's chat or not.
It was this week. And that was the item that I didn't get written down on my little list.
Yes. So
distractions this morning.
Yeah. So one of our freelance writers, Ann Cudworth, is working on reviewing it, and she'll be writing that up for us this coming week to see how it works out. Okay, let's see. ZetaMex, one of the two kind of most well-known open sim hosting companies, is building a new inventory system so that, when you load in your inventory, your assets aren't there, or they get corrupted, or they get lost. Well, we hate that. So they're building a new one that's almost twice as fast as the standard inventory system we have, that's infinitely scalable, and I love this part, self-healing. If it detects corrupted data, it fixes it. So it's only available for their customers, and they have a lot of customers, so I guess those customers can benefit. I like seeing this kind of stuff because I was just talking to Justin Clark Casey, the core developer of OpenSim, about this, that you don't have to have everything in your software. So, like my website, Hypergood Business, I use a hosting company to run it, and the hosting company has a proprietary website management platform that makes it easy for me to install things. This is DreamHost, and they have a really, really nice management panel, which is why I picked them. I also use a proprietary system to check for security leaks and to fix security problems that happen, because there was, sites get hacked, they get malware installed in them, or what happens is they start forwarding you to these medical sites and stuff. So I have them. I pay extra money for the security. I pay extra for any themes or widgets that I need. So I pay extra for all this stuff, even though this software has been around for 20 years. And I'm still paying somebody for all these extra features and additions. I have a content management system on there. I have all this stuff. The basic Apache software doesn't come with all of that. I use PayPal for the money. I use all these different vendors who I pay to provide core functionality for my website. This is still, I think, stuff that's core that every website should have. And it's 20 years in, and it's still not in the basic Apache code, and probably never will be, because people want to have a choice of which vendors they use. So right now, OpenSim is trying to get everything perfectly. And my point is that, Apache still hasn't. If you want to run your own website and have a webmaster, it's tricky. It goes down all the time. So I use Cloudflare for scalability for my website to help it scale. All this stuff, it's all add-ons. So I think it's okay for OpenSim to have a community of vendors offering these add-ons to the basic technology, offering scalability or extra stability or extra security or payments or what have you. It doesn't. You don't have to have everything in one place.
No, but it strikes me with the ZetaMax system. I mean, firstly, if that is in place on a lot of grids that they host, it's going to help OpenSim, sort of stand out from, let's say, the laggy inventory of Second Life. So people
Absolutely.
say, "Oh, wow, this inventory is fantastic." But more to the point, if it's successful, they will probably license it to, it makes business sense. They may license the plugin, as it were, to, other grids that aren't hosted by them.
Yep. They may license it
for a price,
Right. Yep.
And, it may become ubiquitous or something.
Yep.
So, I mean, inventory is one of the things in all the platforms I know that has, it really holds you back when you're in an immersive environment, finding things, getting them, sorting them, and everything else, So I like it, like you said, I love the idea of self-healing, yes.
Yeah. Now, what I think is more likely than them licensing it, although I'm all in favor of that, is that their competitors will reverse engineer it if it proves to be really valuable and useful, or the OpenSim developers will reverse engineer it and include it into their core platform. So, which happens, and that's how open source projects develop. You have something that proves useful and ubiquitous, and eventually it makes its way into core code. Like we have animations with Flash on the website, and finally, it's making its way into HTML with HTML5. What is it? 15 years after Flash has been invented. Yeah. So it takes a while. That's the thing about community-owned, volunteer-driven projects that are managed by committee. They move really slowly, but even though they move really slowly, they can get a really, really long distance. So which I think is the strength of this, because the size of the community does slow it down, but it also contributes to the long-term success of the project as well.
I wish the same could be said for governments and bureaucrats, but never mind.
Well, no,
same sort of thing, isn't it?
No, I agree. The United States, for example, tends to make changes very slowly, but it's also very resilient. The swings it has from side to side are much shallower because of this than maybe in some countries that are run by, say, a dictator who can make changes really, really quickly. That's kind of like when you have a proprietary company with a single person in charge who can say, we're doing this, quick, run, we're doing this. With a big democratic government, you have to get everybody to agree. And sometimes it can take, you have to wait for a change of administrations, for that to happen. So I do think the same thing is true for government bureaucracies. All right, so
it's funny, I've got two links open here side by side. The first one is your link about ZeniMax, we've just been talking about. The second one features another company called ZeniMax, and I'm looking at them on screen, and they look so similar. I almost quoted the wrong one.
The lawsuit,
ZeniMax, of course, is the one that's filing the lawsuits against Oculus, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know if there's anything to it. Seems to be a he said kind of thing. So we'll see. We'll let the courts, decide that. It'll probably drag on for a long time. Yeah. Okay, Otherverse. I don't know if you guys remember Otherverse. They're an adult-oriented virtual world based in Vancouver, Canada. So they're kind of like Second Life, except they have less building tools and more adult stuff. Like, for example, they have an official virtual escorts directory with the escorts being ranked and reviewed, and it's insane. Yeah. So they are planning to rule the virtual metaverse, as any vendor should, because if you don't have any optimism in your product, who will, right? So they're
They're building for Oculus too, aren't they?
They're building for Oculus. So they're building the next generation, and it's going to be called the Curio browser. That's Curio, Curio. And the interesting thing about it is that the browser is based on top of Google's Chrome browser. So you're going to have regular tabs, and if you tab to a web page, it'll look like a web page. But if you type in a virtual world destination, it will open up to the virtual world. So it will take you right inside the world.
Yes, this is what we need.
So their idea is that people are going to throw out their Chrome browser and just use this. And their idea is that people will flee Second Life and OpenSim and jump on board Otherverse. Because in addition to the new viewer, which is fully Oculus compatible, they're also improving the avatar selection. They are also improving the graphics and scalability. They claim that they can have unlimited avatars in a single space. Although the way they do it is by just pulling up multiple copies of the same region. Sharding, they call it dimensions. They claim to have unlimited size regions and prims, limited only by your computer, but it's also true of OpenSim. And the other thing that they're going to have is they're going to be selling their software to individual people or groups who can use the software, set it up, and run their own Otherverse hosting companies or Curio hosting companies and resell services. And it's going to be cost isn't fixed, but it's going to be several $1,000s to do this. So the two interesting things. Go on.
Well, just thinking. I mean, fair enough. I always quite liked the aesthetic of Otherverse, but I mean, it always seemed to be a reasonably small area, and there's no contiguous sort of space to move in. It was sort of go from one place to another. Yep. Which I suppose, if it's just a matter of typing in a URL to a new, destination, that's a lovely system to have. But what do you really think people moan about Second Life being expensive, and it sounds like they would just be more expensive. And I don't know, when it comes to community and user creation and stuff, I don't think they can really compete with Second Life or OpenSim for that matter.
They claim to have 1 million monthly active users, but when I looked up the charts on Google Trends, Alexa, and the other one, they seem to have much less traffic than Second Life or IMVU, which is the other main competitor, I guess, in the space. They're also, to be fair, they don't just have one domain name; they have several domain names. So it's Otherverse, it's Red Light District. They also have sites in Germany and other places. But I don't think they have anywhere near the name recognition of Second Life. The name recognition they do have has an adult orientation to it. So it's not going to help them to create a generic virtual world. So the positive takeaway for me from all that is that they're working on this, and anytime somebody makes an improvement in this, that they make innovations in the user interface, it helps the community as a whole, because they can try things out, and some things will work and some things won't work, and everybody can learn from that. They're going to be doing some voice recognition for commands. They're going to be doing some gestures, like Minority Report gestures for commands. They're using the joysticks for moving around. So they're experimenting with a lot of things that might work with the Oculus, and that's all good. That's all good.
I'm looking through my links here, actually, and I can't find it for love or money, but I do know there was a post, I forget whether it's a Kickstarter or whether it's actually just firing ahead during the week, about a new platform, which is sounds like a virtual world, which is simply, it's not even dating, it's simply going to be using a virtual world to mimic the hostess sort of thing. In other words, you'll be able to log in and book a virtual hostess, hooker, whatever, and like the late night TV channels. Basically they're just treating the virtual world, like what goes on in real life. And there's, when it comes to the sex industry, there is always a market for that. They are responsible for pioneering a lot of things. So I think, Utherverse, as I call it, actually. They are a red light district grid. Yep. It's part of them anyway, isn't it?
Yes.
So I can see a lot of traction for that kind of thing, but only in the context of that kind of thing. If you see what I mean, I can't see it expanding into other areas. This is the sort of thing for somebody lounging around late at night or something who wants to go in and experience all that kind of stuff. It's I'm sure it's a huge market, but it is not, it's separate. It's very separate from the greater market of creativity and, incorporating other entertainment other than that.
Yep. And it's several $1,000s a pop. It's not the best platform for individual grids. If you're a small company or a school or a nonprofit, price is an issue, and you don't want to be with a vendor, especially with a vendor that has a centralized login, so that, like with OpenStim, every grid handles its own login process. If you can't log into one grid, you can log into some other grid. It's fully decentralized. With Otherverse, they do have a central login for all the worlds running on their software. So it is like you were talking earlier about a single point of failure. If that system goes down, all their customers go down. So,
and also, you talk about educators and things like that. I can't see them wanting to be in a system where there's a shared login with stuff that the schools particularly are not going to want to think that the shared login will get the kids into adult worlds or anything. So I think people would see it as a security risk.
They do have one educational customer, and what they've done is they've set up distributed asset inventories so that a particular world can have its own assets. So that if you teleport in, you can only use the stuff that the schools say has approved for use on that grid. So you have to leave your S&M paraphernalia back home.
Yes.
But still, the centralized user controls are a problem. That's one of the reasons that schools are moving to OpenSim is you have your own users. You can fully control your own users. You can create, you can delete user accounts, you can upload hundreds of users at once. If school's starting, you can set default avatars for all of them. So, and you have total control over all the content on your grid. So, plus the price. So that's a big differentiator. So the interesting thing about the new Otherverse Curio browser is the CEO, Brian Schuster, told me that if for some reason all the OpenSim grids don't immediately jump over to the Otherverse platform, although he was incredulous how this could be given the superiority of Otherverse over OpenSim. But if Otherverse, it should so happen, doesn't take over the world, then he will have build OpenSim support into the Curio browser so that it can be used as your central browser for all web and virtual world destinations.
Now that is what I'd like to see for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if they have Oculus support and they have a web-based browser with Oculus support, I mean, it's great. I think it'll be a really great thing.
And the platform I think of that most resembles their concept possibly is Fastpark. Because they are a bit like Unity these days. I mean, wonderful virtual world, but it is all separate installations, and you simply go to a different destination via a web address in the Fastpark viewer.
Actually, they're all like that. The Second Life and OpenSim are unique in having a map-based infrastructure, where we have regions on a checkerboard map. Everybody else, Avaya Live Engage, Vast Park, Protosphere, Turf from 3DICC, formerly Teleplace, OpenQuack, Open Wonderland, every single other platform is based on a rooms metaphor, where you have a single room of various sizes floating by itself in space, and to get from one room to another, you teleport from one to the other. The problem that I have with a rooms-based world is that since the rooms can be any sizes and can be connected in any way, shape, or form, you can have a situation where you're standing outside a house, you walk into it, you come out the back, and you're back in the front of the house again, because it's all teleports. So that you lose your sense of spatial awareness, and because every room can be a different size, and you can group them, link them by teleports any way you want to, it's very hard to build up a mental map of the environment. And I think having a mental map of the environment is important in feeling that you're someplace real.
Yeah.
So when you walk outside of a building, in all these other platforms, the door you walk through will be a teleport gate, and the outside of a building will be a separate room, and the outside of a building would be another room. And so the outside could be smaller than the inside, which is a very weird thing to try to process in your brain. And I think our reptile brains would have a hard time dealing with it.
It's the Doctor Who TARDIS phenomenon, isn't it?
It is exactly like the TARDIS.
But the idea, I'm very fascinated by the idea that somehow there could be some kind of viewer that could, support all the different protocols of different, virtual things that allow you in different ways, to access places. Maybe, I'd like nothing more than to be in an open sim or Second Life and have a portal that might take me to a standalone installation that's on the web or something, so that it'd be like a world within a world.
Right.
Just some sort of system that will be built to hopefully try and interconnect all these sort of things.
Well, all the open stuff is public APIs, so anybody can hook into it. It's all open. We're moving towards a mesh-based universe, and even the stuff that's prims is actually mesh at heart too.
Yeah.
So, and everybody else was mesh from day one. And so I definitely think it's doable, and I definitely think it's possible. And the OpenSim viewers are the Second Life viewers, which are all open source, so anybody can look in there and see how stuff is done. It's not a secret. So I do definitely think it's a possibility. The one problem is the licensing. The Second Life viewers are all licensed as open source, but the kind of open source that's contagious, so that if you include it in anything else, the anything else also becomes open source. Was it LGP? No, that's liquid gas and propane. No, it's the copyleft kind of license where it's really contagious. The main OpenSim server code is written in BSD license, which is not contagious. If you use it in a commercial product, you can keep the commercial product commercial and closed, which makes it easier to develop on top of it.
Right.
But if you make your own viewer, you have to make the viewer open source.
Right. Let's move on a bit, or we're in danger of taking 2 hours to do the news. But I've just also picked up a page here, which is actually from Giga in the week. For some reason, it's just giving me an alert about a certificate, but never mind. It's basically about virtual reality cameras are coming, and it points out that there was a Kickstarter goal for a project called 360 Cam. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether you covered this or not, but basically its Kickstarter goal was $150,000, and it hit their goal on the very first day. and literally, it is a camera that will probably retail for somewhere between $250 and $320 dollars, and basically you'll be able to film 360 degrees all around you. So thought I'd just bring that one up too, because I noticed it. I noticed it in the field. So I mean, it really is all go on this front. Is there any other? Well, actually, I've got all your links open here. There are so many of them. Let's just highlight. We've also got Littlefield Grid are doing something, aren't they, to help Serbian flood victims?
Yep, they're fundraising money. I have another one where there's a Wired story. I just posted the link. It's all about the inside story of the Oculus Rift. It's really interesting reading. I really recommend it highly. And there's another Wired story here on DARPA weaponizing Oculus Rift for cyber war. We're now into a whole new area, aren't we? We talked a couple of weeks ago about the Norwegian army using it for tank drivers to make their tanks transparent. Remember that? So yeah. And the Navy's been using the Oculus for a while too. Okay, and then the other thing that the last thing I wanted to mention was a bunch of new metaverse communities are springing up in Google Plus, which I think is really exciting. And I had an article about it featuring some of these. There's one for adult activities in the metaverse. There's one for vehicles because OpenSim physics is changing. There's one for hypergrid destinations. There's one for OpenSim creators to talk to each other. There's individual grids have their own communities. So definitely worth checking out. I love seeing this, seeing all this stuff kind of develop and flower. And
I have such a time going through all the Google communities. Actually, the thought of any more is a bit bulking. But yeah, you've obviously got more than I have, so I guess I'm just going to have to add them.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I've added them all to my best metaverse communities post. So I have a roundup post that lists all of them. And the nice thing about Google Plus is that you can get announcements sent to you by email when new things are posted in your communities. Or you can just visit them and see what's going on. So they're very attractive, lots of stuff happening, very busy communities. So I love seeing the OpenSim metaverse coming together with all these different ways for people to connect across different grids. So I'm very excited about that. All right, and that's it for my list for this week.
Okay, well, I've got a few more on. I think I've got a few more on your list, but we'll come back to them later because I think we're winding up the thing. I also see you put a couple of links into the Skype chat here, so maybe Pet or somebody wants to transfer them into the channel chat, unless I missed them. There's so many things going on when you do a program like this. Hard to actually follow them all. Okay, I'd like to bring Slimmy in now. Are you with us, Slimmy?
I am indeed.
Yeah, now, I mean, listening to all this, I don't know whether you've almost scared you off or major developments since you were here. But, I mean, as soon as Maria started talking, I started thinking, well, I don't remember rocking the metaverse. This, you and I, Grace McDonough, Dizzy Banjo, and a load of others. I mean, we just thinking back to the days when literally we took a musical tour from grid to grid. Well, there was no hypergrid.
There was no hypergrid, and there weren't. I think that there were other worlds, but I don't think the functionality was there to be able to. Have the amount of avatars, that you've got to have. If you're going to do a live performance, you want to have people in there as well. There either wasn't the functionality. So, I mean, there was, what was it? Metaverse World? No, what was it called? There was Twinity.
We went to Reaction Grid. We went to Twinity.
Reaction Grid. There was there was we did a great tour and it was actually very interesting, despite the fact that I haven't really been involved with virtual worlds for a good couple of years now. Just looking at those worlds which have become more successful over that period of time, the ideas and concepts that people have brought in, the Unity worlds, how are they doing? Even going to as far as, do you remember Weopia?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We were talking of dating.
This is what made me think about it when Maria mentioned it, actually. And I was thinking, Utherverse, oh my gosh, that's one thing. But, that there were alternatives. And I think what I like the most is that the ones that people really do use are still here, and they are improving. Just going back even further in the conversation that you've been talking about, even going back to Mesh, well, I have to say, well, that completely threw me. Even as somebody who's used virtual worlds for a long time, the Mesh thing, God blimey, what a blobby thing that turned out to be on my screen.
I think, by the way, I'll just need to interrupt to apologise to our viewers, but the camera is still on Maria. I'm not quite sure what's happening.
Well, that's okay, because you can all look at Maria's shoes, because I am going to ask you in a minute, because her avatar is wearing really cool shoes and I want them.
Oh, okay.
So while the camera is still on Maria, take a look at those shoes.
I think it's a still camera on Maria. This is the problem.
I do love my shoes.
We may have an AFK camera woman for a few minutes or something, so hopefully we'll sort it.
I like the red underneath the sole there.
Well, this is why I want them. it's the red thing that is going on. But it's fascinating to hear how some worlds are evolving, what they're providing for their customer base, and I never really went into the technical side of things. I was more into okay, let's go try it out and see if it works without necessarily understanding everything in depth. But I like to see that there is a choice for people. Of where they can go, and certainly from an artist's point of view, where is there still possible to go and show my art, whether it be music or as a creator. And there was another word I was remembering now. Sorry, just racking the old brain. There was one we went to on the iPad, wasn't it? It was a
yes, I
tourist.
I still do VV Woo or Weevy Foo or something. Yeah, I still actually occasionally log in.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how many more companies are using that as an application to bring people in, to let them explore something that they've created, whether it be a 3D model or for something like that as a tourist, where you can go and have a look around even before you go to a place, which I think is, I think that's awesome. Although Google Maps is pretty awesome too now, but it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same as being in the virtual world.
Just too much awesomeness around, isn't there?
Well, a lot of it's choice, and I think if right now I was a new person, I'd never been to a virtual world before, I would feel very lost. I would find it desperately confusing. Even coming back, and I'm still faddling around trying to think, oh my gosh, I can't even remember how to sit down properly.
Actually, that was funny, because when I grabbed you earlier, you said, oh, you caught me sneaking in.
Yes, I thought, if I'm going to come and use Second Life a little more again, I better just try to remember how to do everything. Relearn how to multitask. But I would find it very confusing. And I have also found, just in the last few times that I pop back into Second Life, how much is done for you. And I know we've had lots of discussions about this in the past. I prefer to learn things myself. How, if I want to choose how to dress my avatar, if I want to choose where I want to go, it seems like things are done for you. There's less of the exploration side. But I may be wrong. These are just my initial thoughts on certainly on coming back into Second Life. I don't think I'm going to attempt any of the other worlds for a little while.
Yeah.
What about? Oh yes, what was your Avination? Is that still?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest commercial grids. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of my other sort of favorites to go to. Avination was great because I had a great team behind that as well.
The one that seems to cross over a lot with Second Life, it is like a sort of, it feels like a Second Life alternative as opposed to anything else, is one called Inworlds with a Z.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of musicians from Second Life sort of seem to be switching between the two. They'll do a couple of gigs.
I've noticed that, and I notice it more on my Facebook feed, and simply when we all started using Second Life, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no other form of communication apart from maybe Skype or iChat or within Second Life or email, really. So these days, I do manage to see what the musicians in particular are doing from their Facebook feeds, and it's great to see that quite a lot of them are still embracing the virtual performance. It's great, no carbon footprint. I think it's brilliant.
And something else that's happening a lot more now is, we had old favourites like the Virtual Live Band who used to collaborate, online. And there seems to be a lot more of that sort of thing happening now. I don't know whether it's using the same system, but quite, a lot more kind of mixed performances, like one solo performer will join another and they do a dual stream and stuff like that.
That makes me laugh. And I was having a wonderful chat actually with the Dual Resistance, aka Susan Jewell, about when we did Meta Jams. And of course, back then, I remember when we were all having a practice, is that nobody had managed to get 6 vocalists, 6 people singing and playing instruments on one stream. They'd done the instrumental. And so doing this multi-streaming thing, and I look at people now, and I absolutely think it's fantastic, but it does make me laugh when I can't tell you the laughs we had trying to figure it all out and make it work and realise that the person on the stream before you couldn't hear a thing after that, but we managed it, we did it. And I think if you don't have those challenges and fun working things out, I don't know, a little bit of it is lost for me, because I come back to Second Life and I think, what would give me pleasure as a challenge to make something happen. Well, pretty much from a music point of view, most of it's been done already now. Been there, done that. What could we do to enhance an absolutely brilliant music community that's in there already? And you know, we come back to the same question: how do you get the music out of Second Life? It's not bringing it in is easy.
I'm going to switch back to Maria and talk about the conference we had earlier in the week. But I want you to hang around to bring you back in when our camera actually finally moves to you. We seem to have temporarily lost Petlove. We have a good camera stream, but it's not moving anywhere, so I don't quite know what's happening here.
Well, usually I'm a lot more long-winded, so she's probably said, "Oh, okay, we're all set for an hour and a half."
Yeah, she probably figures, well, switch on Maria and go out for a walk. Yeah. But before I do, actually, what fascinating. Have you been following what Philip Rosedale's doing, Slimmy?
I have. Don't ask me what it is right now because it's quite late at night and I've had a very long week in the studio. But I have. And I do gather that he did come in and for the the celebrations and was talking alongside Ebba. Is that right?
He's been in a lot recently. We filmed him at Virtual World's First Practices, and he was in the week before last for Singularity Conference.
That was where I saw. Yes,
he was into this developers thing earlier in the week this week. But his new project of High Fidelity. One of the use cases he's putting for it is, you know, their target is to get round latency. And, you know, he's getting everything down to, I think it's, you know, it's got this target of 100 milliseconds or something, which he's proved he can do. And, you know, he often cites music as the obvious thing for high fidelity. You know, he has to have everything in real time, literally, so that performers could perform together and you don't have to worry about all the drawbacks.
Ultimately, I mean, latency only affects the artist if you've got more than one playing in there in different locations. You know, it very rarely affects the listener. At the end of the day, the listener is never aware of the latency, and I think.
Unless it's multiple musicians jamming together, kind of thing.
Yes, but then you've got something like. Whatever it's called. Oh goodness me, I've lost the plot, haven't I? Because I've forgotten what it's called.
I've forgotten. Okay, well let's temporarily have a look back. What happened earlier this week was on Monday and Tuesday. The regular guys in Silicon Valley virtual reality meetup, which happens sort of about monthly, held an actual first conference at the Computer Museum in San Francisco. There was a bit of confusion about it because at the last minute, Linden Labs, or at least the Linden Endowment of the Arts, announced that there was going to be an Inworld presence. So, although in fact people turned up and there was nothing happening. What they actually did were they were going to stream Philip and Ebbe Rosedale's sessions in, but they weren't actually a sort of outpost for the real conference. So we missed a bit at the beginning, and then switched over to Road to VR, who were handling the actual live stream on the web, and we'll be getting better quality footage from the offline cameras, I believe, during this week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I've listened to a bunch of the sessions just playing on background, and it was a little fuzzy.
Yeah. They had a well-positioned camera right up front, but they didn't have access to the PA. Was the mixer that was handling the PA wasn't plugged into the camera, so it was literally, what it's like in a conference center or something. The sound echoes around, and you're basically getting sound as the microphone picks it up, complete with echo and everything else. But there was some very, very interesting stuff. I mean, obviously for the Second Life component, their interest was simply Philip Rosedale's address. press, and the following day a panel which, oddly enough, was hosted by Drasta Dupre, who was there, with both Ebe and Philip. But there were lots of other players in this thing. That was really the beauty of it. It was targeted at developers, but for anybody interested in the future of the metaverse, including a lot of all the 3D kits and everything that's coming along, it was quite amazing. And Philip actually did, on the webcast, he did a beer, and he was half an hour in and moved to high fidelity, and the stream got cut. So I don't know what quite happened there, but he actually apparently pulled out all the stops. His wife came on, she was the one he did the brain scan with, so he can explore the inside of a brain. And his partner Ryan came on in a mocap kit and demonstrated all the gesture stuff, and all the while Philip is talking, his avatar is his face is moving because it's a camera that's tracking his facial movements, so his avatar is mimicking his own face. And they even slightly improved the look of the environment for the occasion, because it's very primitive and cartoony at the moment, but on this particular occasion they did seem to have sort of worked out a horizon to give you perspective. And the funny thing is, seeing Philip and all the rest of them with beards, because apparently it's very easy to make an avatar in high fidelity with a beard, and less easy to do it without. So go figure. But that aside, those are all semantics, really. There was a great deal of coverage. The thing I did like about the feature sort of panel at the end was sitting next to Philip, and I forget his name, but it was the guy who invented VRML all those many years ago. And when I do MetaWorld News on Tuesday, I'm actually going to put up another clip that I found, which is great. It's actually a documentary about this new thing called virtuality, but it was recorded in 1991, and I think you'll get quite a laugh out of it, actually, because it's not as primitive as you might think. So, what really came across to me, and with him in particular, was that, he was, oh, it's great to be here with all you young guys, you new generation, you rediscovering virtual reality, that we did way back when. And, this really is a renaissance, you got the feeling, rather than anything, all the new kit and the new technologies are on board. But, the actual movement and this current enthusiasm about VR is a renaissance movement in a way. It's trying to bring it back. And there have been some blogs during the week that have questioned, it's okay, all this talk and everything else, but will VR really take off? Outside of these specialist interest areas, is there a market for this? And, that is actually the very thing that all these developments are addressing. And, there is the fight. A lot of people say the metaverse and virtuality, virtual worlds, have been hijacked to a certain extent by mobile technology. People have, instead of going for immersion, people have adopted things that they can carry with them that mean they have instant access to everything, but they get everything in small bites. They don't take time off to do the immersion in the world. Oh, now, okay, okay, I'm seeing in chat that Slimmy is actually saying she has to run. So you're still here, Slimmy, on voice?
I am, just very quickly, but I wanted to say thank you so much for having me on here. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been far too long.
I'm really, really sorry that the viewers haven't actually managed to see you, except very briefly at the beginning. So I don't know.
It's really not a problem. More than anything, I wasn't expecting to come on anyway. So, but it's been.
We can switch seats for a minute.
It's been such a pleasure. Really? Oh, no, goodness me, nobody wants to see me. They can hear me talking. I'm sure that's enough for a first time in 2 years.
But it's really great to see you again. So we might see you in World a bit more in the future. But just before you go, I mean,
yes.
I think some kind of congratulations in order, because, I've followed what you're doing on Facebook and things like that. You've been pretty busy gigging in real life, and there's other things. So anything you want to tell us there before you disappear?
Well, really, I mean, just the last couple of years, I've been concentrating on the music, and I have to say that it's been absolutely great. I've had some great live gigs. I've got some coming up again this year too. Currently working on my second album, and actually lots of collaborations with producers around Europe. So I'm absolutely enjoying every single minute of it. So, but I mean, obviously, you can head on over to anything under Google called Slimmy.
Because you've been doing I've always thought of you very much as a sort of studio electronic musician, but you've actually been, you are electronic music, obviously, but you've been doing live things.
I have too. And I will say that a lot of that has got to do with Second Life giving me a great boost of confidence to actually go out and perform live, because I am a studio girly, and I still love being in the studio because I'm very comfortable here, and generally because it's very close to wherever the cake is and the vodka,
yes.
which is obviously still a massive priority in my life, is that I am close to those two things. So no, it's been a real pleasure, and not only that, even though I'm not running events in Second Life, I have been doing a few little bits of planning for events in real life too, which has been great. When you transfer the skills from one platform to another, it goes very smoothly, actually. It's been great, absolutely great, and I don't appear to have scared my audience off yet.
I can't imagine that ever happening. You must be. I'm sure you are just as charming on stage as you are in virtual reality or anywhere else.
Well, I've still got a sense of humour, so that's got to be something, isn't it?
Yeah, keep it propped up, just crack a joke. If it, get stage fright, crack a joke.
Absolutely, every time. Listen, guys, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And
great to see you
definitely, we shall catch up very, very soon.
Yeah, I'll try and get you. We'll try and get you back in a few weeks or something. When we can
I'd love that. Yes, and also, so I don't feel like such a noob when I come in. I don't have anything to say at all about virtual worlds.
Oh, yeah, you're hardly a noob, even if the news is a bit ahead of you. But it'd be nice, actually. I was thinking it'd be nice to actually have one show where we sort of focus on music, in world and out, and the way they connect and stuff. So.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to do a bit of research and homework then.
Okay, well, it's absolutely fantastic to have you here again. And hopefully it won't be too long in the future. I'll let you normally I would say we'll let Pet's camera move around to somebody else so you can go discreetly. But since the camera's not on you, you can glide off. You can glide off at your leisure.
Discreetly.
Okay.
Thank you a lot. Bye.
Okay. Bye for now. Okay. Well, wonderful to see Slimmy there. Always livens up the show too. She's got a great way with speaking and everything. Right. Okay. I was giving I think it's good timing actually, because I was giving a bit of a monologue there about things that were happening and things that occurred to me while the conference was on. Let's come back to you, Maria. We have the camera moving again. Welcome back, Pet.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Just in time. We've had half an hour of Slimmy and Maria's face, but never mind.
So sorry about that. I do apologize.
She's left now anyway. Okay, but back to the conference, I guess. Just before, Pet, you saw some of the conference, didn't you? Because you weren't you filming the bit with Philip Inebe and Dragster?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could actually sort of see that in the room on the RL stream, although I didn't come in World after I realised most of it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So you would have heard some of it. I guess, did you heard bits, I think, Tara, through me, didn't you?
Well, not, I mean, it was going, but I tended to turn the volume down because I was too busy with work.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just go to you, Maria. Your thoughts on the whole thing, really.
First of all, there was only one woman on the whole thing, and that was Nanya de la Pena. And that's it. Everyone else was a guy. So, and it's not like there aren't women in this, you know. So, it's some of the biggest developers in OpenSim are women. Some of the woman who runs 3D ICC, formerly Teleplace, she's a woman. So Reaction Grid and Inworlds were headed up by women. It's I personally know a whole bunch of people. Of course, Diva Canto invented the hypergrid.
Yeah, exactly.
So women are huge in OpenSim, and I figure it's the same in other industries too. We are between 11 and 20% of the developers. Yes, so women are a minority, but they do exist. They're not like 1%. And on this conference, it was really that low.
I think even looking at the audience, there didn't seem to be that many women there either, which is, I don't know.
And that for me is a big issue because women are going to use virtual reality. We're going to be half the users. And we're being left out of the development process, of the fundraising process, of everything. And so that kind of really bugs me.
I would actually, you say 50% of the users. I mean, personally, I would anticipate. Yeah, like Second Life in a way. I mean, I would actually anticipate that more women will use virtual reality than men. It's something. It's the immersion and the getting down to it is something that really women do. Right. Men will, be forever playing with their mobiles and running around running around with mobile tech like chickens. There is a very different way people take up on that, and you've only got to look at Second Life, the fashionistas and all that industry to realise that, given the freedom of these platforms, women are probably in the majority in Second Life.
There's another angle too that I always think of, especially with things like virtual reality. And that is that I think women are much more attuned, as a general rule, to the community aspect, to the human aspects, to the interaction aspects, instead of being completely embroiled in the techie aspects. Right. And it takes both to work. And if you ignore community and how the technology works or doesn't work for people being able to connect with each other, you're missing a serious piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. I did actually think, although again, surprisingly, it was on the EBE panel that it came up, but in the general panels, there was very little talk of that essential thing, which is community. Mm-hmm. These were guys who were, wowing over the technology. And the technology is, it's okay wowing over the technology and what they're building, but, all that software and all that hardware, it is simply tools. They are tools we're going to be able to use. If you don't address what they're going to be used for, what is the point of all this wonderful technology? And everybody looks at it and says, "Oh, that's fantastic and fine. Got any idea what I can use it for?" So communities, virtual communities, are the heart and core of virtual reality. It's they're even important in games, but immersive spaces are far more than games. And it's the community, whether it's a small community that congregates on an installation or a particular place, or whether it's a larger community that just loves traveling the globe virtually. It is down to community, and it was something I didn't feel was really addressed there at all. It was all the buzz about the new technologies and these guys with dreams.
Also, if you're interested in technology, there was quite a bit of inside information on those panels about how to get your game into one of the big studios if you're an indie game developer, how to get your hands on an early version of the Morpheus headset, how to run a Kickstarter. So the inside baseball, there's quite a bit of that discussed. So if you're out there and you're a developer looking to develop for these platforms, definitely a lot of great information on these panels and people who are potential contacts for follow-up with.
I do actually have a few clips that have come in since the event, which are clips of people wandering around the actual event, looking at the different technologies, and I'm going to compile them probably tomorrow, and they'll be up in the MetaWorld News strand in a couple of days. And it's rather interesting to see people walking around and being handed strange kit. And then having to be told what to do with it, and then they put it on, and then they show you real world cameras on the guy wearing it or doing whatever they're doing with it, and the other side of the camera is showing a monitor. And there's a couple of instances where the guy who's doing the stuff is behind the monitor, so he can't actually see the monitor and see exactly what he looks like, and you keep thinking, I wonder if he knows exactly what he looks like, doing all those gestures. So the technological potential is there. There was some wonderful stuff there, I thought. But as I said, it was the use cases weren't really evident.
But that's a little early. It's a little early for use cases right now. I mean, other than Chuck E. Cheese with their gaming app ticket, the ticket booth. That's gotta be the stupidest. I'm sorry, having a virtual version of one of those booths where you catch paper tickets seems like the least innovative use of virtual reality ever.
Yes, that does seem to be just a little on the lame side. I mean, surely they could have at least have you catching something from gaming history,
right? But this was primarily a developers conference, not a users conference. If this was a users conference, we would focus on things like community development, like business cases, like creativity, and all this other stuff that we are going to be focusing on in the fall in the Open Sim Community Convention.
Indeed, yes. Can't hurt to plug that. It gets closer and closer. Once we got Second Life's birthday and Relay for Life and various things out of the way, it's Avacon rules. Yeah, I mean, one of the more interesting things I found about this, and I think I may be wrong here. Actually, there was a lovely piece on the panel Dragster was hosting. I don't think I like Dragster. Although it's very pushy, but I didn't really feel he'd done his research that much in terms of hosting the panel. I mean, he obviously knows Ebe, the Second Life fanboy there, and with Philip, but I wasn't too sure he'd done his research on the other people he had on the panel. But there was an interesting, there were two interesting remarks. One is rather amusing because there was a question from the audience that related to Open Sim, and there was silence. Dragster didn't reply. None of the others said, and then there was what's that? What's that? And the biggest joke of all, I thought, was the only person on the panel who could adequately answer the question about Open Sim was Philip Rosedale, who clearly knew exactly what it was. Right. So there was no, you did feel that this panel was very. It almost felt like a bit of a Second Life promotion within. Despite the fact that Philip is doing wonderful things, it felt like a sort of Second Life promotion within that environment. And to be honest, Ebe, who's a really nice guy, I think may have been a bit out of his depth on the panel because his focus is on community and actually running a platform rather than, the hardware side of it specifically. But one interesting thread was people began to differ about halfway through. The chap, again, the names have escaped me here, which is terrible, really. But if you've seen it, you'll know. The chap who is not so young anymore, who invented VRML, and the two other panelists on the panel with Debbie and Philip. Had very specific views on the concept of the metaverse. Which was supposed to be one of the threads of that discussion. And when it did finally get round to that, there was a very clear divide amongst the people who thought these are going to be portal run things that aren't necessarily interconnected, and the model Philip particularly goes with, and of course OpenSim does, so they weren't on the panel, which is where we are talking about interconnectivity.
Yeah.
And it was very clear to me that some people seem to want it to go along the lines of, oh yes, this will be a great brand new world, but there will be lots of entry points, and they will often be closed gardens.
Which you have to remember, a lot of these guys are game developers, and for the most part, games are even on the hardware side are still closed gardens. So we have the PlayStations, the Xboxes, they're totally isolated systems, and they're still successful in the market. So I think on the gaming side, we are going to continue to have that in a virtual reality space. And that's why when we talk about the metaverse, it's not the gaming guys who are going to talk about community and who are going to talk about interoperability, but the folks who are running the social worlds, like Ebby, like Rosedale.
Yeah.
And I think you mean Tony Parisi for VMRL.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Indeed.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I can see where they're coming from. That for gaming, closed worlds make a lot of sense. You have proprietary content, proprietary storytelling. You create your avatar from scratch for that particular game. You don't want to bring in an avatar from another game because the avatar itself is part of the storytelling process. You play as a character that the game kind of co-creates with you to one or another degree. But it's not fully your creation. You're part of the creative process to whatever degree the game allows you to be. But fundamentally, it's the game that creates the framework for you, for your character. Sometimes the whole character, your name, your everything is created by the game.
It's the story that is the game, and you have different degrees of participation.
Yeah. Now, in a game like World of Warcraft, you have a lot more flexibility about who you are. In a game like Grand Theft Auto, you have no flexibility in who you are, and you have various extremes of that. But the context of it is still closed and proprietary. You don't want to take an avatar from World of Warcraft, take it to Club Penguin, or take it to some futuristic nuclear war-themed game, because it would get wiped out by the nukes instantly. It's like, I have my sword, I have my sword. I have a machine gun. I have a machine.
I agree. I mean, I can't see, because you go into spaces with a different focus. If you're going in to play a game or engage in a preset story, that is one thing. And there's no to stop having role player areas in virtual worlds, but the game is the game, the story.
Right.
Immersive spaces are a whole different ball game. Completely. So I don't really envisage game platforms connecting to immersive spaces, but I do like the idea of a metaverse of immersive spaces being able to connect. And I found it strange that Tony, as you say, is his name, who invented something new, VMRL, which was a virtual reality modeling language, but it was a bit like Flash in a way. It depended solely on resting on top of web protocols. In other words, it's an extension to, web programming language.
And it was a technical graphics solution for 3D graphics. It wasn't a world in any shape of the word. It was just the way to display the graphics.
But potentially, if you'd had, if a whole host of sites had developed environments using VRML and it itself had developed, then you could foresee that web kind of connectivity where you type, you have a web browser that will simply take you from VRL pages to VRML pages. I mean, I know you can't address them as such, but, in concept. And back in the early 90s, I mean, I was putting archives online on the website, just updating it now and again via dial-up connections, very primitive. But somebody I knew and a partner of theirs in Amsterdam had worked on a similar archive, and their front end was all VRML. So you actually went into a sort of street, and you could go to the museum and the library, and you could walk around to get at the topics you wanted. So, if you were looking up beat poets for information about beat poets or something, you would actually walk into the room and then go to the place where the archive of the beat poets was, and you'd click on, and then you'd be in the normal web. But it was a start. I loved it because they're actually taking this visual interface.
Right, except that particular use case for finding information is not the best use case for virtual environments, because even in the real world, you're not going to drive around randomly looking for things. You're going to look it up in a 2D kind of platform on your cell phone, in a phone book, and something. And I think the same goes for 3D worlds. Stuff is going to move to the web, like shopping, for example, in the Second Life. Just like it has in a real world, a lot of shopping is moving to the web because it's faster to find stuff on the web than in world. Yeah. And when your primary goal is to find information about products, about anything, finding it in a 2D interface is just much faster. But if you're going to have experiences are what the 3D web is about.
This was the key, really. It was back in the early 90s, and there weren't really many sites around.
Right.
And you would assume that somebody going to this site really wanted to kind of investigate, things. And they didn't necessarily want to look up beat poets. They might want to look up or just find out about counterculture in general, which is probably the best description for what the content was. And, what attracted me was not the speed, but the visual metaphor by which they could explore. So, they may have a general interest in what was at the site, but they weren't there to look up anything specific. The visual metaphor gave them a freedom to wander around and look. And of course, ultimately, they ended up on web material anyway. But it just added to that sort of tactile feeling of sort of, I'll go into the library. No, I won't. I'll go to the museum. that's the exhibits, That freedom to sort of choose within the environment. And looking up things, the web is far quicker, clearly.
Yeah.
But we're used to looking up things, and we get it off Google, we read it, we're gone. It's a short bite, or maybe a long read, but we get it quickly. But it was the sense of exploring that attracted me there. A bit like photographers will put galleries in Second Life for their real world photography. You'll go there because you can wander around the gallery and maybe talk with people while you're admiring the photographs. You can get them far quicker by searching the photographer on the web, but the experience is totally different when you do it virtually. And
exactly. It's the experience that you go for, not the actual image, but the experience of seeing the context of the image and interacting with other people who are there, interacting possibly with the photographer himself or herself if they're at the opening. It's maybe there's an ambiance to the gallery that's part of it. Maybe there's music playing. Maybe there's an atmospheric effect to the whole thing that's created that makes you feel like you've been someplace special, that you weren't just looking at Flickr, So,
and actually, if I can interject, the real world experience of an oil painting is profoundly different than looking at a picture of the same painting. Because you've got the effects of light, you've got all that textural stuff that goes on in, say, oil painting that a flat picture simply can't capture. But another thing, just kind of on this theme of, Mal, your interoperability theme. There was at least one comment I saw in one of the transcripts that I skimmed in response to that question, and the response was, it's too early. And I think that's absolutely spot on when it comes to the whole VR stuff, developing the Oculus, etc. Because I think it is such a shift in how information is being conveyed. I mean, just the sheer hardware end of it, that it really is too early to to zero in on a specific interoperable platform because there's too many variables.
Right.
It'll happen, but it can't happen when everybody's experimenting. When there is no leader, when the possibilities are still so wide open for what direction it may go.
Yeah. So, for example, Apple might come out tomorrow with an absolutely stunning package of interface, output, input devices, visual metaphor for interacting with virtual worlds. And we'll all go, oh my God, that is so perfect. Throw out everything else we're doing and switch over to that platform, or the open source equivalent of it, or the Microsoft equivalent of it, or the Google equivalent of it. And Apple did that before when they did that with cell phones, and did that before with Windows.
And they have patents on various things that do apply to 3D technology and virtual worlds. There was a point in actually at the discussion panel where I actually began to, I don't know what came to my mind, but I actually felt a bit sorry for Philip because, he's not only hardworking and got this sort of brilliant mind, a visionary side of him, but I saw him surrounded by all these I suppose less deep thinking people who were clearly trying to rush into the act, and I'd hate to think all the work that's been put in high fidelity would suddenly be upturned by some of these other players barging in, where there's he's got a lot of capital, but he hasn't got as much as Facebook, for example. So it's almost so the Oculus thing and the traction of these devices is sort of really up in the ante and the speed of development of things. And I'd hate to see somebody like Philip, who really started so much of this, getting left behind. But I did get, I suddenly thought, he's showing off real magic here, but he is working with what I always say, well, you got the Oculus, you got Leap Motion, you got all these things, but they're all just different devices. We don't know what the end game is, but he's clearly working with everything he can get his hands on, sort of trying to find where the end game is. Once have to solve the latency thing, then solve the interfacing, the tactile tools. Make sure he can get rid of the mouse once and for all, apparently, and then move on from there. So he's actually playing with all. He's clearly angling for a platform that will take into account all these forthcoming devices. But with the money floating around and the current viral nature of the VR sort of renaissance, you do wonder if around the corner some of the other players other than Facebook buying Oculus are going to come up with big money and just trying to accelerate themselves into that space before the real innovators, really get a chance to get their own things off the ground. But
I don't know. I think we've been fed this myth that the first in gets everything. But they always say the second mouse gets the cheese.
The first one gets in the trap.
Exactly. And all you have to do is look at what happened to Netscape when Microsoft came out with Internet Explorer. Where is Netscape today?
I believe
to which anybody who was born after the year 2000 says, "What's Netscape?" So, it's
didn't Netscape incorporated into Mozilla?
Some of the stuff went into Mozilla. Some of it was bought up, I believe, by AOL.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But so Netscape was first in, but as I say, where is it today? It's in the dustbin of virtual history.
Well, same with Betamax videotape. First in, best on the market, but only the industry used it. The public never did.
Yeah.
And of course, Apple is a perfect example of that as well. They were first with the Windows interface. Microsoft took over the market. They were first with the iPhone, and now Google has taken over with Android, as far as the number of devices that are being sold. So Apple might well do that again. Come out first with something, and that they've stealthily working on all along. And because they're secretive, They do keep things private.
And of course with Apple, I can also point to the fact that in the 94, 96 era, every other article was a prediction of how quickly Apple was going to completely vanish, and look at them today.
Yep.
So,
but now there's new predictions for why they're going to vanish, because Android is eating their lunch.
There's always going to be predictions.
So they're going to have to keep inventing. So they might. That's what I'm saying. Don't write them off.
Something I just remembered something else that came up in the week, and I haven't played with it for obvious reasons. But Slimmy's not here. But Brian Eno released a new album in the week. I can't remember what it's called. You've probably heard of Brian Eno. He was in Roxy Music, but it's new music pioneer really. He's done quite a lot of things, including gallery stuff in Second Life. But I think you may have to use the vinyl version. I'm not quite sure whether it works with the CD. But basically, if you buy his new album, you also download a free app. And what actually happens, and God knows how they've done this, but it seems to work, is that you load the app onto the iPad and lay your iPad flat, and nothing happens until you start playing the album. And it senses the music and gives it like a holographic display. You've got to have the iPad flat. And basically, it gives you a 3D light show that comes out of the surface of the iPad and is synchronized with the music. And it won't work unless you're actually playing the track. But
that's cool.
It's cool. Yeah, it's something different. And, it is a form of 3D. Apparently, and this is just using the iPad as it is now, without a holographic screen. It somehow finds a way to do it. So you never know what's around the corner. And welcome to Lauren Tone, who's in our chat room as well.
Hey, Lauren.
Just saying hi to the people live on the channel. Most of our viewers watching replays, so it's nice to see the people that are here live, so we can say hello to them. Lauren's actually saying that Brian Eno's always been doing stuff like that. Very true. He's got a new trick up his sleeve experimentally for just about every new thing he does. So yeah. And he has the 5 billion paintings thing. I have it in the wall upstairs here in Second Life. It's a few years old now, but it was done in association with, I think it was Annabeth Robinson at Leeds University. And it's the first thing in Second Life where there's no music attached to it, but literally the picture in the frame constantly refreshes, and it's always different. It is never the same. So it's like a piece of art on the wall that blink and you miss it. It's constantly changing due to sort of various logarithms. It's not cycling through images. It's completely recreating them all the while. So fascinating stuff, that. And a collector's piece that I have virtually. Indeed. Right, so I think we've filled our time here, really. I'm actually showing 1.5 hours, but there was a bit that I don't think got recorded at the beginning of this show, so I'm adding that on, and I think we're nearing our 2 hours. So let's go round and any other business, so to speak. Pet, you have been fairly silent, so I'll start with you. Start with you. What's going on? What's coming up? And that sort of stuff.
Nothing much, except there will be a film of the Philip, Ebbe, and the other gentleman in Drax panel coming out this week. And I do apologize again for that camera. I had a real-life interruption that I just couldn't avoid.
I figured it might be.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I had people at my back door, and it wasn't pretty. But it's okay. Everything's okay. So, but I do apologize for that. I just got torn away. And that's my news, though. Neighbors and a panel film soon. So
very good.
Yes.
Is that the Inworld? The Inworld.
It's a combination of things. It is the Inworld presentation of that particular panel that was held at LEA 1. Right. But it will be mixed. It's not just a straightforward film. It'll be mixed with pertinent Second Life visual references to go along with what the panel's talking about.
Oh, great.
And we're also working on treating the soundtrack to it a little too. Lauren Tone has been kind enough to offer to help me with that. So not only will it look good, it'll sound good.
since he's actually in the studio, in the audience listening, thank you, Lauren. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I gathered the ones I'm told are coming midweek are actually just the real, they're not Second Life, they're just the real world. Apparently there are offline cameras too that were actually taping from the mixer as opposed to the live stream that happens. So hopefully they'll be much more audible. But that'd be great if we get that stuff up. Yeah, as I say, there are some outtakes and a few other things to do with that I'll be putting on MetaWorld News Strand on Wednesday. And you better see a replay of this program, of course, in Metaverse Week in Review. But as I pointed out last week, I'm not putting that playlist up till Mondays now, which gives us time to stick weekend material into it. So it's sort of now separated from this program. And that's all on that front.
Mal, I just thought of something. MOA has already put out a film on Philip's panel presentation, and I believe that's on Slartist. So that's available.
Oh,
from
right.
the SVVR Conference.
Right.
Yeah, I thought I should mention that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. I was chatting with Napaisian before we came on air quite a bit, and so maybe I'll try and grab a copy of that and see if we want to run it. Okay. Anyway, I'm not quite closing the show yet. Maria, and there's a whole load of things in your blog this week. There always are. Hypergridbusiness.org is the place to go when you're not following my Twitter.
Hypergridbusiness.com.
Oh, sorry, .com. Oh, God.
Yes, it may be losing money, but it's still a .com.
Well, because the other post you had up, if I'm loading it properly here. Oh, browser, come on, make your mind up. I think it was you. Yes, it was. It was. VR hardware moving along 3 separate paths.
Oh, yes. So I mentioned that earlier, that we have things that are peripherals for consoles and PCs, like the Oculus and the Morpheus. We have these frames that you can stick a cell phone into that are basically like Viewmaster kind of things, where the cell phone does, the iPhone or the Android phone does all the work. And the only thing the device has is the 2 lenses to make it look like it's 3D.
Yeah.
And then the third option the Game Face is the first one. And like I said, I'm talking with a company this week. They are actually taking the Android operating system and building a device right into the headset. And what this means is that instead of going out to a computer and back again, it's all contained into one device. So it's wireless. There's no lag because of that, because it's right there. So it's going to be faster. They can use dedicated chips that are just designed to do just this one thing. So that could be a performance boost as well. So we'll see how, and they have a very wide field of view and lots of pixels in there. So so that should be interesting. So we have those 3 major directions. And we're probably going to see some shakeouts and some new entrants and a lot more competition. And we'll see what people like. I mean, the cell phone ones, on the one hand, are cheaper. But on the other hand, cell phones aren't powerful enough right now to run this. So this is good for watching movies on an airplane, maybe. But maybe not so good for everything else.
Not for real 3D.
Yeah, but the ones that, like the Oculus or the standalone ones, they're very expensive. So we'll see, and of course the prices are going to drop, and the smartphones are going to get faster. So it could all be a wash in the end, anyway.
And this is all assuming that your device to mount your iPhone and right in front of your eyes as the do-it-yourself solution is. Still on the board.
Yeah, that was the third category.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the desk lamp with the
desk
clamp?
lamp.
Yeah. We
Yes.
didn't count the clip. We didn't count the clip, did we?
I did not count the clamp was a device. That was a joke. That was a joke of a Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's the fourth category.
My article was totally sarcastic. But you're right, fourth category, devices that have nothing to do with virtual reality, but are trying to cash in on the hype.
Yeah,
Exactly.
These shoes are for walking through virtual reality. Okay.
A question I was going to ask earlier, I don't have one, and I don't know, but I mean, Google Glass basically has, doesn't that actually have a CPU attached to it? In other words, it's a standalone item. You don't need anything to go with it.
How does it work? I don't know if it's attached to your Android phone or if it's a standalone product.
I thought Glass was actually a standalone product, which was what intrigued me, because the idea that you've got a sort of tiny CPU.
I know their competitors are standalone products because I've tried. Oh yeah, I tried on the Google Glass. Yeah, it's standalone.
Mm. So, I mean, I think they look rather ugly, but weighted to one side. I prefer they were evenly distributed. But, I mean, you know, it's remarkable when you think there is effectively the CPU running the Google Glass in that little box that's on the side of them. But until I get one, if I ever do, can't really know.
Yeah, it only has a very limited range of functions. And it's like it's text-based, and the one I saw at least. So it's like a little heads-up display, providing you with a little bit of information off to the side of your eye.
I keep seeing announcements of new apps for Google Glass, so you know I tend to think of it as a platform rather than a device. But
yeah.
Well, given the price tag, it better be a platform.
Yes, well, exactly. Yes, it's the toy of the idle rich at the moment, I think. Rather than anything else. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anything coming up in the week that we've still on OpenSim or anywhere else?
So let's see. The end of the month is coming up. So I'll be looking for event announcements for June. So if you have a grid, or if you have a region on a grid, or a parcel on a region, and you're planning to do something on it in June that you want the public to know about, email me please at maria@hypergoodbusiness.com, and I'll add it to the report. If you're having a special sale, if you're launching a new product, opening a new store, whatever it is, if it's happening in June, it's happening in OpenSim on either closed or open grids, send me a note. I'll add it to the report. So there's a place to go for the main happenings of the month, including musical events, that kind of stuff. And if you have a grid calendar that I'm not listing yet, that I don't know about, send that to me as well, or a group calendar. And the other thing I'm doing, and I'm doing it this afternoon, is I've invented a new Hypergate. Oh, this is cool. See, the thing is with the hypergates is you have to edit the scripts to get them to go into a new direction, and it's a pain in the butt. So what I have is a hypergate where the name of the destination is the name of the object, like gate to Hyperica or gate to Metropolis. And then the subject line is the hypergrid address. And the gate automatically takes the name, puts it on a little label on top, because in OpenSim you can now write text on the prim, puts a little label on top, and then takes the address, sets the gate destination to that address, and then if you want to change the gate to a different address, just change the description. You don't have to go inside and edit the script or anything. Just change the description and change the title on the prim, and you're all set. And then you walk through it, and it takes you to a destination. No dialing, nothing. So I'm going to post that up for free, the script, in a couple of hours. And then I'm going to be selling a completed package on Kitely Market. So anybody on a hypergrid grid could just download and get it pretty cheap.
Okay, one final question. because it comes back to your blog, believe it or not. But we were talking earlier about, a new kind of inventory system and everything else that will hopefully come along and maybe be licensed elsewhere. That, that could be a really plus for, Open Sim Advantages over places like Second Life. But you posted... I think it was yesterday. I was going to say today. Why I threw away my suitcase and why I don't want it back. Yeah, you thought I missed that.
I missed that. Yeah. See, the thing is, every layer of security creates a layer of inconvenience. Like my bank just added the whole new 2-layer of passwords. I hate it. I used to be able to just log in. Now I have to go through 2 layers of authentication. It's so annoying.
Time consuming. Yeah.
And not only that, if you happen to make the mistake of logging in from a different computer,
I know.
You get a 3rd layer. They ask you one of your security questions or something else.
I think they sit up at night thinking of ways to drive us crazy. They really do.
So now I can understand if you're protecting money. Now, not that I have a lot of money into my account to protect. I am a writer. But in my Hyperica inventory, I don't have anything. I have a whole bunch of Linda Kelly freebies and 5,000 things labeled primitive.
Oh, yes. No, that one.
Object.
And I have a whole bunch of gates that are available for free on the grid anyway. All the stuff that I produce, all my textures, everything is licensed CC0. Which is Creative Commons public domain license, and I put it all up and out there. So if somebody wants to steal my inventory and try to go through it to try to find something valuable in there, more power to them. Maybe they can find the sneakers that I lost. I swear I thought I had a pair of sneakers in there, and I could not find them yesterday.
Things do disappear. Sometimes things stop working, or they're just ended and they don't work anymore.
Yeah, I want that inventory. God damn it!
Yeah, they go away.
Yeah, basically the suitcase thing.
Right. So the suitcase thing.
It's basically an inventory which contains your transportable stuff. Basically,
it's a single. It's a secure folder in your inventory, and when you travel to an outside grid, the only thing the other grid sees is the suitcase, so they can't get their hands on the rest of your inventory. So, say if there's a hacker sitting there on that grid, waiting for unsuspecting people to come along so that he can rummage through their inventories. Why he would want to do this, I don't know. But if he was out there, the only thing he would see would be my suitcase. And the flip side of it, he can't put stuff into my inventory like spam or something, right? Everything would go into that suitcase. So the suitcase is a security measure. But for somebody like me, who has nothing to secure, it just gets in the way because I want to be able to do the stuff with it. It's just a pain. I have to move things from my suitcase to the rest of my inventory, and it gets in the way. It's another point of failure. It's another place where things get lost. It never works right for me. It's jinxed. And then I saw a guy who's Dan Banner, one of the admins at OS Grid, who said, "Oh yeah, just get rid of it." I was like, "Ooh, just get rid of it." So he told me how. He gave me all the instructions. I passed the instructions along to my hosting company. My hosting company was not in favor of getting rid of the suitcase because they're all about security and reliability and stuff like that. But I made them do it. And then I tried teleporting around. That worked fine. I got Kitely deliveries from the Kitely market because I was worried because they go into your suitcase. No problem with them. And then I went shopping and I went to other grids and got stuff and I put it on and everything worked perfectly. And I didn't have to worry about, where it went. It worked as smoothly as if it was on my own grid. And so,
I mean, if you really want to, you can just create a folder which is kind of travel bag or something. That you drop, you transfer items from your own inventory into into your travel bag. That way, they're all full permission and you can access them wherever you are. But you can do that manually. I mean, you don't get the security, but you can do it manually if you really. Yeah.
Yeah. So far, with a day of testing, I haven't come across any problems related to not having my suitcase. If I do come across any problems, I'll post them. But I like it so far. But this isn't for everybody. If you're a creator who has proprietary content in the inventory, there have been no reported cases of anyone hacking into an inventory yet, but you'd hate to be the first one. And also, if you like going to iffy, sketchy, and shady grids, and which one of us doesn't? You know?
Yes. Oh, that sounds interesting.
None of them are worth it. None of them compare. We're spoiled here.
Well,
don't you think?
It's like those bad sites on the internet where you go and you get an instant virus downloaded.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to go there, but they're so tempting, right? Because they have all the pirated movies and the porn and whatever stuff that you shouldn't have. That's where it is. And so I right now there aren't that many of those grids yet. In fact, I don't know of any that are that shady. But it's still early days. So a grid might well pop up. Now, if a grid, if a grid,
nice if there was an easier way of telling if somebody's got a self-hosted grid, because that's where I would see the main danger. If I teleported into somebody, a grid that's hosted by somebody on their own server at home, and they immediately have access to anything I go in with.
But the thing is, really, they don't have like obvious access. They would have to hack into the message stream. So if they have the technical skills to do that, to hack into the messaging between the viewer and the region, they can copy bot anything they want directly from the source. Why bother trying to find it in your inventory on the off chance that you are the one who has the thing that they need and not 5,000 copies of an object named primitive?
Well, not to mention the fact that anybody that's got that kind of hacking skills, why are they hacking in OpenSim anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing about criminals, and that is that by and large, whatever they do needs to be as cost effective as any other business.
Right. And it's not very cost effective. There are easier ways to steal stuff. Now, the bigger threat is that somebody who's malicious, who gets a kick out of causing trouble, who deletes stuff in your inventory. And again, I have not seen this happen. And I would know if it happened to somebody because people would tell me. So I have not heard about this happening from any developer or from any user. But in theory, because hackers can do all sorts. I mean, there's no technology is 100% perfect. So a hacker could do this. I recommend, and this is the great thing about OpenSim, keeping backups. So my hosting company makes backups of my regions and backups of my inventory. And I can also click a button and save copies of my region and save copies of my entire inventory to my local computer. And I recommend, if your hosting company doesn't offer this, either bug them until they add it or switch your hosting companies. Because this is a very easy thing to do in OpenSim. If you run your own OpenSim, you can do it very easily from the console. It's just one command. It's a trivial thing to implement. And it is so super helpful because it protects you against any potential hacker out there, but also against your own stupidity. I just deleted all my stuff. Oh no, what shall I do? Oh, I have a backup. Okay. Oh no, my backup's 2 years old. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Yes.
Oh, we got somebody called Freddie in the chat room. Who says,
oh yes, Freddie's been a periodic watcher.
Where has Freddie been?
Right?
We missed Freddie.
Hello, Freddie. Haven't seen you in a while.
He's actually pointing out we've gone over time with this show. It's normally Nap that tells me that. Right. Okay, we probably have too, so I better get us rounded up. Anything else from you, Tara?
It seems like there ought to be, but it's escaped my mind. So I'll just say, have a great week, everybody. See you next week.
Right, and of course it's a holiday weekend, both for us in the UK and over there in the USA, so I suppose we can say happy holidays.
All right.
Thank you, and right back at you.
Happy everybody.
Yeah.
Are we still meeting next week? Next Sunday?
Of course, it's this weekend. It's the holiday weekend.
This weekend?
It's Memorial Day
Memorial Day if you're in the US of A.
Oh my God. I don't know.
And tomorrow is a bank holiday if you're in the UK. It's all over next week.
And if you're in Canada, sorry, you missed it completely. It was last weekend.
Oh, great. Okay, well, yes, we do 52 weeks a year, unless anybody is off for the week or something. So, yeah, I guess it's the usual roundup. My many thanks to Slimmy, who has now departed, but it was absolutely wonderful to see her. Thank you as ever, Maria.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you, Petlove.
Thank you, and once again, I feel real bad about not putting Slimmy's face up when it belonged up there. Well, I do apologize.
Yeah, stuff happens is the polite word, right? And thanks always to Tara as well. Thank you, Tara.
Gosh, we're being polite these days. Since when?
Enjoy it while it lasts, right?
Since when? You know,
he just likes your outfit, Tara. That's all.
This goes down in history as a day when I didn't slip up, or did I? I don't know. Anyway, we will be back same time, same place next week. If you want to see a replay of this show, it will be mixed in somewhere with the Week in Review tomorrow, but the easiest way to see it is to go to slartist.com. That's SLARTIST, where you should find in fairly short order a high-resolution replay within a matter of hours. And all our archives are also hosted there, so stuff that's long gone from our live channels can be found there as video on demand. Wonderful service. Right, I think that's it. Believe it or not, I've got a whole other Twitter feed open that I haven't even touched. It's the one for Malburn's Writers in Inworld SL feed, and that's really going to have to wait until next week, I think. We'll try and get Honor or somebody back on to keep us up to date on SL again next week. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching, and we will be back next week. I think I've done all the necessary things, so it's bye for now.
Okay.
Bye.